Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 48. What happened in 47? Well, Apis started down a pit with a dragon breathing down their neck. And through a series of flattery, Apis managed to get themselves and Briar out of that sticky situation unharmed, but captured by Lucifric, the green dragon. Lucifric took you and Briar back to their lair, finding their way through the thick walls of brambles and spikes and undergrowth that is preternaturally engaged by the dragon's will to hinder people's path, but it seems to move out of the way as he moves through it. You sent off Mel. He wasn't interested in keeping Mel as a prize. And so Mel took a message back with you from you to the people of Fonderg to send help, or to let them know where you are at the very least. And you're hopeful that she can deliver that message as soon as she finds someone that can speak Sylvan. Eventually, following Lucifric, you saw some undead animals on the way, and thought that was peculiar, but kept it to yourself for now. And then you arrived at the edge of a very large vegetative dome, hundreds of feet across and over 100 feet tall. Lucifric entered this dome again through pushing portals into it out of nothing and then stitching them up behind himself. And once inside this very darkened dome, you discovered that it was built around a wood elf village up in the treetops, a bunch of tree houses. You were greeted by followers of Lucifric, his feet on the ground, as it were, a series of dragonborns, green dragonborns that followed him, worshipped him as a lord. They took your weapons off of you. They took a couple of other items from you as well that they deemed to be potentially dangerous, a net for one thing. And then they introduced you to the people of the treasure room, the other people in this dome with you. You met a series of elves, some of which are alchemists, and will be working with you to try and work out a potion of poison, a poison of vulnerability, some kind of new researched alchemy. A frontier of alchemical knowledge, and it's proving quite difficult to do with limited resources and the threat of a green dragon breathing down their neck the whole time. You, as a dwarf, have a natural resistance to poison damage in your blood, so they are going to try and work with your blood to try and see if they can understand and unlock the magical nature of it. But ultimately, his goal, it seems, is to create some sort of new poison, to get that into his father's system so that when he fights him, his father can become vulnerable to his poison breath, and he can actually have the advantage in the fight. You managed to convince Lucifric of your worth for him to capture you in the first place by demonstrating to him that you can misty step. You can jump from one place to another within 30 feet by traveling through the plains. You explained that you're a horizon walker, and that these creatures are very rare and in touch with various planes of existence. And why rule over one plane when you can rule over them all? And so he seemed to see your worth in that and take you captive. Since arriving in the dome, you have not seen your companion Briar. She was separated from you right at the beginning. You did a little circuit around the dome, doing some foraging, looking for magical ingredients, and when you found them, you took them back to the dome. You met a couple of people on the way. You met one of the farmers who farms some food for the dome on the outside. Then you went in and dropped off the ingredients at the sorter, the sorters, who sorts through all of the things that you've brought back, discovers which is food, which is potion ingredients, which is useful for other reasons. Then they divvy them up as needed. You met a person who makes the lantern oil for all of the lanterns around the town. You met the cooks, who were not very forthcoming with invitations or information. Seemed a little rude and overworked as they prepared for dinner. Then you met a sculptor who is given the task of creating beautiful elven sculptures for Luciferique's treasure hoard on the regular. Sculptures that would normally take decades of an elf's work, but she is being expected to do them in a month. So she's rather stressed out. Then you met a carpenter, Tisharu, who is the most... well, let's say he, of the people you've met so far, is the least... the one that is least bowing down to the Dragonborn's rule. He is the most strong-headed, perhaps, of them. He feigns ignorance and stupidity in order to push the boundaries of their rules. He is the most obstreperous, I guess, is a good way to say it. Finally, you went across to try and work out where you're going to sleep, and given that this is a wood elf village where nobody needs to sleep, because elves don't sleep, you found that the best place for you to put your head down would be in the room, the meditation room, where the elves usually go into their trance once a day. It is a simple cylindrical room with lots of cushions around the place, and in that room you found Cassandra. Cassandra being the young teen woman who used to be the receptionist for the Knights of Kvosna. She was in an almost inconsolable state of dismay and terror at her predicament, fearing for her life. But you also know that unless she can prove her worth to Luciferique as a treasure, she is not going to be long for this world. So you tried to console her, you tried to show her that she needs to do something that keeps her worthy of being here. And while you were talking to Cassandra, you learned that how she was captured was that into the well in the centre of Fonderg there seems to be tunnels allowing for the access of kobolds. It's the first mention of kobolds being involved in this Luciferique arc. And just after she mentioned the fact that she was taken by kobolds, her eyes glanced over your shoulder and realised that you were not alone in this room. No, Inola, the head of the Dragonborn guard, was standing there in the doorway listening to you. And that's where we're going to pick up today. So, as you just mentioned to Cassandra that everything's going to be okay, you promise she was alive today and you'll make sure that she's alive tomorrow. You've already asked her if she wants to come forage with you. That's one of the ways that she can make herself useful. And then you asked how she was captured, and she said kobolds. And as you turn to follow her line of sight, you see Enola staring back at you. I'm going to make an insight check on your behalf to see if you can read her expression. You don't have practically any experience with Dragonborn, so Dragonborn are particularly difficult for you to read. They don't have humanoid faces, and that is evidenced by the 3 there. So with your 3 plus your insight modifier, you've no idea how to read her face. You're not sure that they use very expressive facial expressions as humanoids do, and so you're not sure whether she's scowling or just got resting, you know what. But one way or another, she doesn't look very welcoming. Do you say anything? Do you wait for her to say the first thing? What do you... You did get Cassandra to put her mask on, yeah? So Cassandra and you are both wearing your masks now. You stay between her and Cassandra. So you turn your shoulders round, keep Cassandra behind you. Is there anything you wish to say or do, though? Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't say anything. Smart. That is something you've been told over and over again. I wanted to see if you would remember that. Do not speak unless spoken to. Wait until she talks. She's standing there watching you for a good 10 seconds in silence. And then she says, "Dinner is ready." And then she takes a step to the side of the doorway. And she doesn't gesture with her hands or her spear, but she just kind of waits and watches. You bow and you start to leave the room. And as you get close, she puts the spear across in front of you. And then she leans in and says, "I would strongly suggest you do not speak of the kobolds to anyone." And then takes her spear back and stands back up straight. And she towers over you by a significant margin. As a dwarf, I always forget whether we've actually put in the specifics of how tall Apis is, but I think you're somewhere around mid 4s, 4'6" give or take a few. And as a dragonborn, she is about 6 foot at least. You just nod your head, reach back, take Cassandra's hand, and you can hear her sort of sobbing has stopped, and she's just stoically looking forwards now, looking down at the ground. And you kind of pull Cassandra forwards out of the doorway, being as not as submissive as we can. Put on a show that we're frightened of it. Yeah. Let's roll just a general sort of a performance check, as it were. 11 plus your 1 for charisma, so 12. You're doing an above average job of showing that you are cowed, you're frightened. Investigation to see what armor she has on. Absolutely, Spades. Natural 1. So natural 1 plus your investigate with the skull mask that you're wearing, and the fact that you are deliberately bowing your head. You're left with very little in the ways of what you can actually see. You've seen them enough to know roughly what they wear. She is wearing scale mail, and she's wearing a padded scale mail, padded beneath. It seems like she has mail, or it seems like not the scale mail that you would be familiar with as a dwarf, not the scale mail you'd be familiar with even as somebody who's been around civilizations and watched fights and things in between humanoids. Her scales seem to be much larger and almost plate-like. It's sort of a mixture, I guess, between a sort of an almost breastplate scale mail. They seem to be made of dragon scales, yes. Other than that, you know that she holds a shield on one hand and a spear in the other, but you don't know anything else about it from this particular moment. So you make your way out of the hut, and you make your way along the rope bridge over to the eating hall. And as you go to enter the eating hall, she says from behind, No. You will not be eating here. You have a special invitation. And there's a few others there now. You see the other elves that have all started making their way towards the eating hall. It seems like everybody has dropped exactly what they're doing, and they are making their way to the hall. And there's some like confused looks between the elves. She says, "The dwarf will be dining on the floor tonight." And she gestures with the tip of her spear down to the rope ladder behind you. What do? Down we go, I suppose. Down you go indeed. So you turn. You let go of Cassandra. Cassandra, you see in her eyes, she's worried that you're being split up immediately after her conversation with you. But she's smart enough to keep her mouth shut for now. How do the others look? Let's roll an insight check on everyone around you. 3. You're the lack of peripheral vision because of the skull mask that you're wearing and the fact that there's just so much going on and it's very dark in here, it makes it all very difficult to read the people around you. You manage to read Cassandra's worried a little bit, but everybody else you don't manage to see their faces or body language. Give Cassandra's hand a reassuring squeeze and pat her arm before you let go and head down the rope ladder. As you go down the ladder, you notice that there's sort of torchlights appearing above you as the people walking towards the dining hall are starting to like lean over the balcony to see where you're going and what you're doing. And you make it all the way down to the ground. You hear the creaking of the wood on the rope ladder above you as Enola is following down. Down on the ground, waiting for you already, is Zakar, the other guard, the one that came across to crack Tisharu in the head for being obstreperous. The two Dragonborn reach the ground and stand on either side of you, and you just sort of wait. And you wait. And you wait. And sort of glancing around, you realise that the people up the top aren't going into the dining hall either. They're standing and waiting as well. And you feel like maybe they're used to this, or maybe they're expecting something. Maybe they're waiting to be given explicit permission to go and eat, or maybe they know what's about to happen, and they're waiting to watch it. You wait for about 10 minutes in silence, just standing between these two, knowing better than to talk before being talked to. Before the wall of the dome opens up in a different place to where you've seen it open before, and in strolls Lucifrique, wings tucked back, neck dipping down low to fit through this doorway. And once inside, the wings unfurl in a grandiose sort of like a king who's sweeping his cape out behind himself, his cloak, his fur-lined cloak. He's sort of really putting on a show of importance. And following him in, you see a mole. The green dragon mole is following him in as well. And dragged behind the mole is a net, sort of like a very fine net that seems to have something in it. Behind the mole is a badger. This is the first time you've seen the badger, but he is enormous. He barely fits through the hole that has been made for him in the brambles. He seems to be scraping himself through. But you see this huge pointed snout of this, what would be the black stripe down a badger's snout, is green and scaly. And once pushed inside, although he obviously doesn't have the wingspan or the neck of Lucifrique, he has much more bulk. He stands taller at the shoulders than Lucifrique does. Lucifrique stands on his rear legs and stands to his tallest, stretching his neck right out, and says, "Your lord has returned!" And anybody who wasn't already standing at the balcony would, at that point, know to come out and stand at the balcony, as you've now witnessed this happen twice when you were brought here, and now. "I've brought another treasure!" And the mole sort of drags forwards with its snout this net and just drops it on the ground. And Enola passes a glance over to Zakar, and Zakar steps in closer to you, right behind your shoulder, as she steps away to go over to greet her lord. She gets there and down to the net, and then she starts to speak to him in Draconic, and although you do speak Draconic, she's far enough away now that it's hard for you to pick up on it. I'll make a perception check just in case. 9. Yeah, 9 plus your perception. It's not, your ears aren't keen enough to pick up exactly what they're saying, just that they're speaking in Draconic. But once she opens the net, you see that inside is a man in the fetal position. And as he sort of unfurls and stands to his feet, shakily, you can see that it's a very terrified looking rock gnome man. He is a relatively short, obviously, for a rock gnome. He's about 3.5 feet tall, so even shorter than you. He seems to be quite petite of a man, relatively tiny in his body stature, and he has some glasses that are skew on his face that he quickly sort of rights. He has a little sort of a soul patch that is twizzled round and about a couple of inches long. And other than that, he has this large sort of hooked nose, and all the rest of his features are kind of covered behind these now sort of righted large jam jar bottom glasses. His hair is like a tousled wild sort of salt and pepper that goes down to just about here. He stands just like looking around up at the dragonborn in front of him, and not turning to, because he knows that there's a dragon behind. Lucifreak says, "Funderg is paying their respects nicely. I may even forgive them in time. Take him." And Enola grabs him by the shoulder and roughly kind of like pushes him forwards. She's speaking to him as she moves, and as she's getting closer, you can make out that she's basically telling him instructions. "You've arrived just in time for dinner. Get up that rope ladder. And before you do," she reaches down to a bag by her waist, and she rifles through. You can hear bone clattering against bone. Then she pulls out a bone mask. "Put this on, and keep it on." Do we recognise him from the Fiend's Bar? No. No, we do not recognise this man. He, with shaky hands, he puts his hands out and grabs this bone mask and puts it on, and it kind of like it makes his glasses go skew-whiff again, and he tries to put them over. He takes off his glasses and puts the mask on. And then he goes to grab the rope ladder, and you can see that he's like a foot short of it. And he stumbles forward and holds onto the ladder. As he puts his glasses in his pocket, he starts to make his way shakily up the ladder. "Now," Lucifreak says again, "I believe I've arrived in time for dinner. And lucky you, I will be eating here tonight." He goes back down to all fours and starts to stroll forwards, and his eyes now lock on you. "And I'm joined by a special guest." He gets close, and the badger now comes up beside him. And you can see that the badger is also dragging behind him. Although his is attached to... he would just be dragging it by one of his claws, I think. He's dragging a Hessian sack beside him. I will make you a... What's your passive investigation? Passive investigation is good enough, so I will say that you... Oh, another 3. That's the third time that this dice has rolled a 3 today. You notice as he gets close, and then the dragon sort of like sits down his back legs, you notice that there's like a glistening on him a little bit, but your eyes are then diverted to the badger beside him. The badger comes between you and sticks the sack down, and you hear there's like a clatter in the sack as he does so. A muffled clatter. Are we gonna jail that dice? You can put a yes or a no in the chat. Should I dice this 3 dice? Jail it. Jail it. You know what you've done, mate. There we go. It sits in a dice jail, not to be used. Next Apis dice. This is the Apis dice for today. The good rolls are about to come. Yeah, I know, right? If people jail your dice, you're not allowing it to regress to the mean. It's gotten all of its bad dice out, all of its bad rolls out, and then you jail it before it can do all of its good ones. Where was I? So the badger drops the sack, and Zakar pushes you forwards with the butt of his weapon. And you stumble forward. Do you do anything or say anything to greet Lucifreak, your dining companion? Say nothing but bow respectfully. Yeah. So you step forward and you bow, and he says, "Ah, I see you're learning to pay deference well. Good. Set up the dinner." He says that last bit to Zakar by your side, who says, "With pleasure, my lord." And he steps forward and he opens up the sack. And in it you see an entire pig that has been roast, probably alive. It is intact and fully roast, and the skin of it is completely charred and scorched, very crisp. And then there's a bunch of the things that clattered were a bunch of crockery, and he takes out a plate for you and puts it in front, just like on the ground, on the grass in front of you. He takes out a couple of he takes out a meat knife, a carving knife, and a fork, and sticks them down in front of you. And then the pig, he hikes up, and then drops it off of the sack in front of you as well. And then he takes the rest of the sack and pulls it back up and clinks it over his back, and you can see that there's more plates and cutlery and things in there. But he just got the one out for you. And so you have a carving knife, a fork, and an entire roast pig. And then Lucifreak looks down at it and says, "Well, Apis, my dear guest, traveller of the plains, eat well." And then his legs sort of buckle under him, and he rests down on his claws, his long neck resting just on the other side of this pig in front of you, on the ground. Subtly check to see if you detect poison. Alright. So this will be just a culinary check, like a... is it going to be survival? Survival, because you know what the smells of certain poisons look like in food. You can tell whether food is off and things, so survival kind of makes sense. Also medicine, nature. I reckon a survival check. 15. 15 plus your wisdom plus survival makes sense. So that's a dirty 20. I'm not sure that forest bonus applies here. With the dirty 20, you're not seeing any obvious telltale signs of poison. The pig seems to be burnt a lot from the outside, but nothing else wrong with it. Carve a delicate slice off. You take your carving knife and your fork and you stick it into the pig through the crackled skin, and you start to slice at the rump of this pig. As you slice in, you're looking for telltale signs of poison or anything, and it looks like no, doesn't seem like it. This pig has not been poisoned to death, it seems. If it has, then the poison killed it so quickly that the blood wasn't able to take the poison to the rest of its muscles, because the muscles that you're cutting away at seem to be regular cooked pork. You carve off a slice and you hold it out on the fork to him, and he says, "Thank you. I prefer my food with a little more fight in it. This is for you." Is anyone else here beside Lucy and the Dragonborn? Just you, Lucifreak, and the two Dragonborn that are on duty. Inola didn't follow the gnome up to the top. You see that you sort of glance around, and you see that everybody above you, 50 feet above you in the village, is still at the edge looking down. The food smells nice. It does. Smells like delicious cooked pork. Take a deep whiff before we eat and pretend to save the smell. I need a yes or no. Are we going to eat it? Eat it. You take the slice that you carved off. Tastes delicious. Tastes like cooked pork. Tastes like overcooked pork because you've eaten the part right on the outside of it. You see a smile across his face. I'm glad to see you're not overly wary of me. You may eat! He shouts back to the rest. And you see them start to turn from their balconies and walk back out of sight. So, Apis, tell me about this stepping ability you have. As you carve off some more. What do you say? What is the limitations on it? How far can you jump? Ah, bums. Do we know? You don't actually know that much. You know that it's definitely you know that there's definitely limitations on it, and that it's not a very far reach. But you haven't actually put the time into working it out properly. You know, for instance, that you wouldn't be able to jump like a mile away, and you're pretty sure that you have to be able to see the space that you jump to because you've never done so without seeing the place you're going. But you haven't actually tested it. I would offer him thanks for his generous gift and then describe the misty step only. Spill all the beans that we know. Lying is risky. Is there any reason to not tell him what Rob just said? It's up to you. We are untrained. Do we lie about how much we know? I'm not sure myself. I am not actually sure myself. Is there a reason you want to know the knowledge? The reasons I wish to know things are not of your concern. I wish to know and you will tell me. That is the relationship that we have. Understood? Yes, Lord. You take another bite of the pork. I'm not entirely sure of the limitations on it. Then it seems like we have another test to do. Boy, how I am growing to like these tests. I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn about the abilities. There's a lot of planes out there. It feels like a prickly sort of electricity down my body. And then I can jump. I find myself in another place. So you have control over it though, yes? You seem to know where you were going to land before doing it before. I know where I'm going to land. Then what is the limitations of where you can go? Once we're stronger, I'm confident that it's feasible. But I am sorry that I do not know yet how far I can go. You promised me the plains. And now you say you do not even know how far you can go with your own abilities. You hear footsteps above now, and you can see that people are starting to come back out, hearing the sounds of him getting more angry. And people looking up, you can see that they're holding simple wooden bowls and eating from them with spoons. We can jump to places that we can see, trees and stuff. We're still learning, and if we have the space to practice, it'll help me to explore it. Oh, explore it you will. We have much to test. It's quite exhausting. Really? It tires you out? I can only go where I can see. With you saying that, his face visibly sinks, as if he's shown a little disappointment. Only where you can see. His eyes kind of shift, as if he's trying to think things through. You've been testing us all this time, but what about you? If I'm to aid you, I'd like to know that you're strong enough to protect me from any dangers we might run into. Green smoke starts to whiff from his mouth. If we're meddling with such powers, it carries risks. You wish to know of my power? And with every chuckle, there's more smoke coming out, and because he's so close, you can start to smell that acrid kind of... You get in that natural response to your throat of it kind of closing up and making it harder to breathe, and you start to go into a bit of a cough. You just make a con save just to see if you can hold it down. A 3 on a different dice this time, which is lots of 3s. 3, it's a magic number. You try and hold your safe face, but his laughter has spewed poison too close to. You turn to the side and just start coughing up sputum, and he says, "I don't think you could handle a display of my power. But if you keep talking back, maybe you'll see it. I welcome your tests, Lord, and I welcome a chance again to prove my worth to you." Good. His head comes quite close again and says, "Eat up." And then he retracts his head a little. "I believe when we're trained up, I'll be able to step with you and take you with us." "I'm hoping so, yes." "We need to know how best to serve you." "That depends on the outcomes of my tests." "Can we explore it together?" "Yes, we can." "I think I'll be able to go to other planes when I'm stronger." "Let's hope so, for all our sakes." You eat up, take another bite of the pork. You've got nothing with this pork. There's no sauce, no marinade. There's no vegetables, no side piece, no side plate. So it's relatively dry and overcooked. It's not the most pleasant. And as you breach into the next layer of pork that you're taking off, trying to get deeper into the animal, away from the overcooked exterior, it's getting rarer and rarer as it goes, until you take a bite and it's like, this is not pleasant. And you realise, as a person who's an outlander and a ranger living on the land for many years, you realise what the taste is. This is the taste of spoiled meat that has been from an animal that is cooked without being prepared. This, as you realise, is going to be not toxic meat, but you want to stay to the exterior of the meat as much as you can. There is this pig has not been gutted. Are there any telltale signs he's getting his breath weapon ready? He seems to have it ready. It seems to always be ready. As he's speaking, there's always slight wisps of green mist coming from his mouth, and then when he heavily breathes, it's very heavily laced with breath weapon. But it doesn't seem like he's preparing to use it. He hasn't anything like that. If he did, you would have only a moment to actually react to it anyway. If I'm to aid you, increasing my power will propel us both further along. Perhaps you have boons or gifts in your hoard that will benefit us. Yes, perhaps I do. And perhaps, if you prove your worth to me, I may trust you enough to show you. So, while we're on the topic of tests, tell me what you know of your friend, the short one. And he sits back down, and his neck goes back into sort of like this waiting stance. What are her limitations? And you know that he's talking about Briar, your 2-foot-tall hobbit companion. And you're not sure where she is. You haven't seen her since you arrived earlier today. Is she alright? He answers that with just a smile. I don't know a lot about her. We did 2 trips together. And yet you opted to fight to have her saved. I find that hard to believe. You would put your life on the line for a relative stranger. I know that she is a fantastic forager Surviving on the land comes as easily to her as breathing. She can commune with nature, speaking with animals, plants. Plants. Interesting. She can get these plants to do what she wishes. That's more about me than her. I would probably sacrifice my life to anyone I felt was worth it. Really? I haven't known Briar very long. She'd be better to answer than I am. Oh, I'm asking. She has been interesting in her tests. I didn't have the chance to see her use a lot of her powers. But she's very useful and best kept alive. Oh, what a shame. I know that she worked for the PEA. What is that? The pen camp we're in Amgleshed. I've never heard of it. It sounds elvish. Yes, it is. I know that she can help me unlock my true skills. Really? That's a lot to know about someone you've only just met. She's small, and we brought her along because she could talk to birds and such. Yes. Yes, it is fascinating, her ability to speak with my spies. I was informed of such very quickly. So I find it interesting that you have failed, and he stands up and starts to turn his body around. I find it interesting to know that you failed to mention her ability to shapeshift. And he turns around, he's now on all fours and watching us. You didn't think that pertinent to bring up first? Of her powers? It is not usual among the humanoid folk that they have my gift. Even my father is reticent to use it. He thinks it beneath him. She's never done so in my presence, so I didn't know. Never done so? So the horse you escaped from my boar on, that just came out of the woods, did it? I do not appreciate liars! And as he says this, there's a big plume of green smoke, and there's an audible gasp from above. You will be honest with me when I ask her, and when I ask you of questions. I apologise. In the thick of battle, it's hard to remember what may or may not have happened. I apologise. I did see her do that once. It's usual for people with her abilities. I didn't think to mention it. Dear chat, do not lie ever to Lucy, thank you. I was simply working through the things that she can do. I'm sorry. So what do you know of this ability of hers? Is it just horses? Can she take other animals? Is it just animals? Can she take the form of humans? Humanoids? Tell me. And he sits back down. I've fought amongst many people in recent days, and it's hard to place which ability with which people. I've only just met them, and that one slipped. I beg your forgiveness, my lord. She does not have she does not have the gift as well as you do. No, few do. Out of character, what do we know? You've seen her transform into a horse. You know that druids can shapeshift. You do not know much about it. She is the first druid that you would have met as a shapeshifter. You've met Mosh, who is a were fox. So you know that shapeshifting is out there in the world, but you know that druids can do so without it being a curse. You know that she can become a horse. You've never seen her become anything else, I don't think. As far as I know, she can only turn into beasts, and weaker beasts at that. Really? I hate to take all this time from you. Don't you have hedgehogs or random beasts to bed? What I do in my own time is not of your concern. And hedgehogs prove a tricky one to bed. They are not my preference. GM Workshop, please stop saying things to aggravate him. You're making me scared. So, weaker beasts. That seemed to be what we took from our tests as well. So are you saying that you never saw her turn into a pig? No. Really? That's a shame. It was quite the sight to behold. Quite the sound to behold, the way that she squeals. And quite the smell, too. And he reaches his head out and then takes a big smell of the cooked pig in front of you. Wipe our mouth. But you're quite right. She was limited in her abilities. Roll for insight. 16. 16 plus insight of +2 from wisdom. And because we have, because dragons are our favoured enemy, I will allow as a bonus there. Can somebody tell me, might be easy for me to pick it up, for me to look it up real quick. What does favoured enemy give you advantage or a plus? You have advantage on survival checks to track them and intelligence checks to recall information about them. I said that this fits with that, so I will give you advantage on the check. So because dragons are your favoured enemy, I will give you advantage on the check. So 6 or 16. 16 plus 2 from your insight, 18. You do not... He's hard to read. You can get the things that he is wanting to exude are coming in abundance. He is troweling on the arrogance and superiority over you in bucket loads. He is lording over you his ability to outwit you and outsmart you and keep you subservient, staying ahead of you at every turn. And he is also lording over you his ability to keep you in line by hurting those you love. You are not able to tell anything more than that with your insight. What you do know, however, is that you have never seen anyone polymorphed, and you've never seen anyone wild shape, other than Briar, and so you do not know things that you might know as a meta player. So Apis probably has no reason to believe that this isn't Briar. So some people want to eat more pig, staring him in the eyes. Some people want to put it down and not touch it. So what do you guys think? I'm going to put a poll. He has heavily implied that the pig that you're eating is Briar. Do you want to eat more or not? He has not outright said so, but he has heavily implied it. No. 62% of you say no, we will not continue to eat. So just as he says, it's a shame that you never saw her turn into a pig, because the sight was fascinating to behold, and the sounds she made when she squealed, and then the smell. And he withdraws his head back from the pig, and you look down at the pig, and you put your fork and your knife down. He says, "Have you had all you can eat? You don't seem to have much of an appetite. Do you want any more? Or are you finished?" Lord Luciferic, in addition to my abilities I'd love the chance to share my knowledge about getting an animal properly. About gutting an animal properly, so its intestines will not spoil the meat. This pig has not been cooked properly, and the taste is spoiled. You are ungrateful of my gift to you. Very well. You have made your bed. He reaches down and grabs the pig and drags it away from you. Throws it in the air. And you see the whole thing almost like he seems to have crushed it into like 2 or 3 pieces before just swallowing them whole. And this huge lump, this bolus, you see it travel all the way down his huge, thick, serpentine neck. The Napus shall not eat! And stands up and walks from the dome. And as he walks away, a new section of the wall opens up. He leaves, the badger turns and leaves as well, and the mole follows. And then it stitches back together. You look up and see just a dozen or so faces of people eating from bowls. You can't tell what they're eating, but it seems to be some sort of sloppish gruel. And you had a cooked pig. The Dragonborns step to the side and start to climb. One of them, Enola, starts to climb the ladder. And Zakar stays down here with you. Can we see Briar among them? Nope. You haven't seen Briar since you arrived in the dome. She was separated from you and taken away. Can we mentally mark that opening? You can try. You also know, Snafu, that he has entered and exited through different places of the dome every time. So what now? Over to you guys. What do you want to do? You are standing at the base of a dome. You are not hungry because you've eaten while you're foraging, and then you've eaten several slices of roast pork. Go find Cassandra. Head up the rope ladder first, releasing a meaty trump as we climb. Make a con check. 4. You shit yourself. No. You turn and walk over to the ladder as well, and Zakar doesn't stop you. You start to climb the ladder. You make your way back up to the top, and you can see Cassandra is standing. She's one of the only people who's not actually out here at the balcony. She instead is sitting in the food hall, just sitting at a table with a bowl in front of her and a spoon next to it. Did we see or hear Lucifreak do anything to open the doors? Nope, just walked towards them. We've seen him do it numerous times now, even from on his side of it, or the other side of it, and it seems like the plants just move at his will. So you are back up on the surface, on the ground level. No, what do I want to call it? I need to come up with a word for it. You are back up on the canopy level, because you're not the canopy of the trees. You're like halfway up the tree on a wood elf village balustrade platform. Maybe that's it. Yeah, back up on the platform level. Go ask Cassandra if she knows where Charlie is. You go over to Cassandra, but you know that you were told not to speak unless spoken to. So you go and sit opposite her at the table. Cassandra looks up at you as you sit down opposite her, and just stares at you dead-eyed. The others start to file in behind. The other elves start to file in, and they sit back down at their tables with their bowls in hand, and just slowly eat. And you just sit there in silence with the sounds of wooden spoons scraping on wooden bowls and slurping. Scraping. It's not long before people start to stand and move their bowls in silence back across to the 2 cooks, and then leave their huts. And you can hear the sounds of floorboards outside and creaking of rope bridges and floorboards on rope bridges. Can we get a read on the room for unusual behaviour? You look around and you see that as it's emptying out, there's no Dragonborn in here with you anymore. There's very few of the elves are around. I'll make an insight check on the people that are left. Um, there's... I'll say that one of the last to leave is Tisharu. Tisharu walks past and sort of like claps you on the shoulder and gives your shoulder a little squeeze, and then carries on walking out of the door. But no, there's no one else to read. You can read on Cassandra that she's just in a state of shock. Can we take a good look at everyone before they leave? As they were leaving, you could see certain people were avoiding your eyes. Certain were kind of glaring at you. And then Tisharu give you a shoulder squeeze on the way out. Any chance of detecting a portal for escape? You can, yes. So to detect a portal, it's a once per short rest ability. You haven't had a chance to have a short rest since you used it. So if you have a short rest now, you'll gain that ability back, and then you can use the detect portal ability. He asked why we didn't tell him she could shapeshift. He clearly already knew. Yes. That part was clearly a test of you. He was trying to ask you about her abilities so that he could see if you would come clean and offer him all of the information unprompted. Rational Mind says it would have been difficult for them to roast Briar as a pig because they're poison dragons, not fire dragons, and she's smart enough to pick something better than a pig to turn into to escape a fire that lasted as long as the pig was roasted for, unless she was dead and then roasted. Did Cassandra eat? You look across the table and she's not eaten. It seems like her bowl is full, and now that you're close enough to see, you can see that her bowl is full of something that looks like a greyish slop with lumpy bits in it. Everything Luciferique does and says is a test. To what end, other than keeping us off kilter, one does not know. And much do we know about polymorph? Nothing at all. We've never seen polymorph used as a spell. And we're not a wizard, nor are we studied in the arcane in any way. We don't know anything about polymorph. We know that it is a spell that can be done, but literally nothing else. Tell Cassandra she needs to keep up her strength. Cassandra, you need to keep up your strength. Come on, love. Eat up. She looks down and then sort of like starts as if like she's only just seen the food. And her hand comes out and just picks up the spoon and just goes through the motions of eating it. The Dragonborns aren't here, we can speak softly. Yeah. Investigate the grey goo, vegetation. Let's have a look then. Let's do a culinary check. You're not proficient in culinary tools, so this is just going to be essentially just a straight wisdom check, I think. 7. Not rolling well today, Apis. You can't tell. It's got a slight smell of mushroom to it, but it looks tepid and sloppy. Taste the goo. You reach out a finger and dip it into her bowl. It's definitely got a taste of mushroom in there, but there's also just like a grainy texture to it. It's kind of like really like a creamy mushroom, but not like where there's way too much cream and the cream wasn't very tasty. There's not a lot of like herbs and spices been added to it or anything, and it seems like it's sustaining gruel. Can we explore the last place in the treetop platform that we haven't been to yet? Sure can. You stand up after seeing that Cassandra is finally eating, and you walk to the door and leave the hut. You walk around to the resting, the meditation treetop, and walk along the rope bridge there. You see that there are about half a dozen elves in there at the moment, all just sort of sitting against their walls on cushions, heads bowed in sort of meditative stance. You walk past the hut and over the little rope bridge that leads across, and it's quite a long, narrow rope bridge, this one. It leads to a much further away tree. This tree seems to be a little more isolated than the others, a little bit further afield than the rest. And eventually you get across to just a simple sort of residential house by the looks of it, a simple two-story tree hut. And the door is open as the doorway is open, as there are no doors on these huts. And making your way inside, you can see that there is a young. Well, I mean, it's hard to tell age with elves, but you can tell that there is an elf in there that has relatively long hair down around their shoulders, and they're just sort of sitting there. She has a pile of laundry clothing on one side, and she's folding, washing, and she doesn't seem to have seen you come because she's got her back to you. The things chat has done this episode, I'm slowly losing it. That's the fun of Apis Hive. Even people new to it are still just as much of a synapse in the brain. We've been too aggressive and non-compliant this episode. It's a tactic. Could always work, or it could get you killed. Can we knock on the ground to announce our presence? Yeah, you. Real quick. And she starts and turns. Oh, hey. Hey. You're the new one. Congratulations on getting the dining with him. That's good. Got to meet with him. Hi. She looks startled and not expecting company. I'm gonna make an insight check for you. Hey, nat 20. Nat 20 plus your insight of 2. From her behaviour, it seems there's something strikes you that this woman is not used to having company. This woman's not used to having people come to her hut, it seems. Not just you. But she is used to being left alone. There's something about how she's started and seems to be completely out of it with how to approach a conversation with you or know what you're here for. That she just doesn't seem. You get the impression that she's probably left alone a lot. She stands to her feet and says, "Do you have clothes for me to wash? Is that why I can clean them. If you just take them off and leave them on that pile there." And she points to the door, and there's like a basket by the door it's just filled with dirty clothing. If you put them in there, I'll have them done by in a few hours. Unless you're in a rush, and then I can do them first. I can do your I can get those done really soon if you are in a rush at all. Hello, I'm Apis. What's your name? She says, Rathal. She's an elf as well. Yes, she is an elf as well. So now that she's standing and facing you, you can see that she has those beautiful elven features, long, like a light brown, dark blonde kind of hair that reaches down to about her shoulder blades, and is just kind of swept back over the ears. She's wearing clean clothing that is relatively well looked after, but it's simple. It's kind of like it would have been probably something quite nice and elegant a while ago, and has since been worn to the point where it's kind of getting a little bit overworn. It's clean, but it's old, like it's frayed. The material's starting to get thin and stuff like that. No dragon mask. No, she isn't actually wearing a dragon mask. You can see that she's got quite stocky shoulders, a little bit stockier shoulders. She's got a bit of strength to her, but not like super muscly. Do we know why no mask? You don't know why anybody's wearing masks and why this lady wouldn't be. You kind of glance around looking for a mask and you don't see one. What do you do, guys? It's over you. I'm waiting on you to do something. We could ask why she doesn't have one. Sounds like she used to be important. Potentially. Is that what you want to do? Probably no mask because she's usually left alone. Maybe. How do you spell her name? Rathal. Rathal. May I ask? May I ask why you don't have to wear a mask? With your insight, I'll carry it over from before because it was a nat 20. You see a reaction to the question. You see a momentary flash of guilt and frustration. And she says, I don't know. I was told that I didn't have to wear one. Mr. Freak said that he likes to see my face. Are we intruding? No. You can wherever you want to. That's fine. Your Apis, was it? Yeah. Can I clean for you? Is she pretty? No prettier than a usual elf. She has semi-masculine features. But as far as an elf goes, even masculine elves aren't. Most elves tend to be rather androgynous. Have you worked in this bit for long? Yes. The others find that my skills. I have. And she goes over to the basket beside you and picks out some of the dirty clothes. She says, "I have abilities with the magical ways that I can." And then she sort of waves her hand over this this stain that you can see. Well, not a stain, but like a food splatter of some of that grey glop down kind of the breast part of a tunic, and she waves her hand over it, and it starts to disappear. It takes a few seconds before it's done, and then she sort of turns it over, and she does the same vocal component, somatic component to it, another section of it, and she cleans off another foot by foot section of this tunic. She turns it over and she does it again, and she does it again. Does she cut keys as well? She says, they come to me because because if they need to clean, and then she takes the one that she's just finished and she puts it on the pile that she was sitting beside when she was folding them. Her face doesn't have any marks or scars. Nope, no marks, scars or bruises. Her face seems as another elf would be. It's really cool. I need that. Yeah, I know. Imagine. It's such a useful spell in real life. It's a shame she doesn't work in the kitchen. Yep. She says, "Yeah, I've been here for a while, and that's what I do for the town. The treasure room. I clean for people, and sometimes if they need a clean, then I'll go to their place where they live, where they sleep, where they work, or where they spend their time, and I will clean for them there if they want me to." I have a very bad feeling about this lady. It's very impressive. Do you know much about magic? Oh, yeah, yes, yeah. I know a little about magic. I used to study magic a little. The ways that it sort of moves with certain things, certain strings and things of magic. I can clean something for you. Do you need me to clean for you now? I can. Okay, I'm just not sure why. What can I do for you? Would you like any food? I had some. I just ate dinner. I'm fine, thank you. It's very Apis to befriend every underdog we meet. So let's keep talking. I mean, that is very Apis. There's this girl, Cassandra. She's finding it quite hard to settle here. Can she be of any help to you? Oh, no. If she needs to help, and she's looking around, and you can see that she's kind of like desperately trying to find something that Cassandra could do, but she's got very little she can do on her own. I don't have much that she could do for me. I can. Does she know how to clean in the same way? No, no. I don't have a lot of things that I can do for her to do for me. I'm sorry. She could gather for you, save you the trouble. Gather the clothes and things. People will bring me the clothes when they want them to be cleaned, and then I will take them back. Cassandra could take the. That would be good, actually, if Cassandra could save me having to go into the other people, and she could take the clothes back to them, and maybe she could pick up the clothes. Then they wouldn't have to come here. Oh, she's been shunned. Yes. I'll carry that because it's a nat 20, and it's sort of I'll allow it to pertain to this entire conversation. Wraith is right. You do pick up on the fact now that she has been shunned by the rest of the community. For what reason, you don't know, but she is not liked by the community, it seems, from what she says about them and the fact that they have to come here to give the clothes. She says Cassandra could help deliver clothes so that they don't have to come here and stuff. So you're gathering now that she is nervous, really unsure of herself, seems somewhat depressed, and is shunned by the rest of the community. What time is it? It is late. You've spent enough of the day now that it would be at some point in the mid-evening. You're not sure exactly because everywhere in the dome is dark, but it is mid-evening now, and you've had a long day of foraging and things. This might seem like a blunt question, but are you disliked by the other villagers? You seem like you don't like the company. I mean, people could. We're in. It's a tough time for everybody, and yeah, I think it's tough. We used to, but it's times are different now. So, will Cassandra be safe here? I don't. Lord Lucifreak is kind to those who can be useful to him. Does she seem fearful for her safety? Not particularly. Is there any way we can acquire a weapon? That's up to you. Yeah, I mean, you want to try and find a weapon or take a weapon from someone? You want to fashion a weapon? You could go to the carpenter or the sculptor and try and steal one of those chisels that they had. You could go to the kitchen and try and take a knife. You could fashion a weapon out of sticks while you're out foraging tomorrow. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could do. I assumed that she'd want to hide her face, but she wasn't permitted to. Maybe. One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. So the wearing of the masks is a privilege. You're really not sure. You got taken to this dome. You were given a mask and said, "Don't take it off." And then you've seen. You haven't seen anybody get punished for not wearing a mask yet. But for some reason, this lady doesn't have to wear a mask. Has she heard any rumours? Have you heard any rumours? Rumours of what? Of me? What do people say? It doesn't matter what they're saying about me. But I've heard rumours about me. Do you never mind. Do you know where we're supposed to sleep? Does everyone sleep in the same place, or do I have to find somewhere to camp for the night? Oh, we don't really sleep. We rest in the everybody else rests in the meditation hall, just attached to this tree here. If you go in there, there's cushions that you can rest on. But I sleep upstairs here. I meditate upstairs. Okay. I'm trying to help Cassandra become useful. I'll talk to her, and if she feels up to it, I'll bring her to you. Okay. Okay. Did we see Charlie yet? No, you haven't seen Charlie. You've seen him since you arrived here, but not lately. It'll be probably safer for Cassandra to go around gathering laundry than keep sitting there doing nothing. We can also play No Warrior our ring. True. That is true. I kind of want to ask her what the village was like before the dragon came. So ask her. What was the place like before the dragon came? It was beautiful. There was it was a lot larger. People lived. There were about 50 of us, and it was a beautiful place. We got along well, and we worked together really well. But it's just that Lord Lucifreak is powerful, and he is a wise ruler. That he is kind to those who serve him and have purpose. It's just different now, is all. It's not worse. It's just different. I think we hit a nerve, perhaps something she's guilty about. Comfort time. Ask her if she'd like a hug. Is Apis a hugger? Would you hug? Are we huggers? Should we hug? Don't hug, but try to comfort her. Pat her arm, maybe pat on the arm and put an arm around her. Would you like a cup of tea? You probably shouldn't be. You probably shouldn't stay here. The others will see you talking to me, and they don't like me much. So you should leave. If you've got anything to wash, I can wash it for you. But you should go now. Just said the dragon said we're not allowed to eat. That's fine if we're not eating their food. We can forage our own, but we're under constant surveillance out there in the forest. They'll report it if we eat that out there too, and we'll be in more trouble. Can we do an insight check? How much does she believe her own words? No insight check necessary. We rolled an insight check at the start of the conversation with her, and we got in at 22 total. We've already picked up on pretty much what I've said about her, that she feels ostracized by the rest for reasons you don't know. But she had a sense of guilt when you asked her about why she doesn't wear a mask, and then the very end when she started saying about how it's not better, it's not worse, it's just better, it's just different. There was definitely a sense of self-preservation involved, trying to convince herself that it was true. Before Lucifreak came, what was your station or role? I'm an entertainer. I like you, but we will leave. Has anyone, as you're leaving, you turn and look into the pile of washing and say, has anybody brought you any small clothes to clean, like the clothes of a small child or anything? No. And she shakes her head and bursts into tears again at that question. Is it okay if I come back later? And she just sobs and turns her back and sits on the ground and starts folding washing again with her shoulders heaving. Have a nice evening. And you leave. We should ask the dice about Briar, because if she's dead we might as well escape, such as through a portal. Has Apis seen any children in town? No. No kids in town that you've seen. Closest to a kid you've seen is Cassandra, who's like 14 or 15. So you leave. You walk across the long, thin bridge over to the area where the sleeping, the resting meditation quarters is. Are you going to rest and meditate, or are you going to go do something else, talk to somebody else? It's getting late, and Apis is probably getting tired. Maybe this village had children but doesn't anymore. I sure hope this wasn't a kindergarten teacher that had to find a new job. Find a private space to ask the bone dice a question. You can if you want. You can try and find a private space. Looking in the meditation hall, as you pass, there's somebody looks up at the door and sort of like rolls their eyes and looks back down. You can see that they're still wearing their masks even when meditating. You can probably tell from who's in the meditation room which rooms would be empty. One of which would be the sorting hut. You can see both Leandra and Alethi are meditating right now, so the sorting hut would probably be open. You can also see... wait, where is he right now? You can also see Charlie, who is a half-elf Bridden. He is in the meditative hall as well, and he's lying down. This time tomorrow I need to come back to make sure she won't fucking kill herself. Long rest would be nice. How many people in the meditation room? About 6. What do you want to ask the dice? So who wants to find, so we can, I'll put it to a poll, who wants to find a place where you can ask the dice a question, and who wants to long rest, and who wants to do anything else? What else might you want to do? Sleep. Scratch a pair of crossed arrows into the dirt floor and offer a prayer. Pray. I'll put those 3 things to a poll. Ask the dice something, try to get sleep, or pray. So the people in the room, let's see, who would be resting right now? The Beladel and Olathea are not there. They're the people the cooks from the food hall. They're not in the room, the meditative room. Leandra and Alethi are. Thanalai is the person who makes the oil, and he's in the hut there, sleeping. These guys sleep outside, those guys sleep outside. The alchemists are still working. Alana, the sculptor, is in the meditation hall. And Charlie. Is that 6? Tisharu's probably in there as well. Alana, Tisharu, Charlie, Leandra and Alethi, and Thanalai. Those are the ones that are in the room. And it was Thanalai that rolled their eyes at you. So, with 61% of the vote, Apis decides to ask the dice something. We haven't asked the dice anything today, so there's a guarantee of success. Not necessarily a guarantee that we'll be able to interpret it, but a guarantee that it will be truthful, at least. So we leave that area, knowing that Thanalai and the sorters are both in that room, having a little snooze, or a little elven snooze, a little meditation. We know that Thanalai's hut and the sorting hut will both be empty. Do you want to go to one of those to get a little privacy with your dice, or do you want to move elsewhere? Do you want to go down onto the ground floor? Do you want to go back across to the carpenter's place, where Tisharu's place will be open? Also, the sculpting area will be open. You can ask, is Briar alive? Question has to be about something we intend to do soon. Usually, but if you ask it something else, you might still get the right answer. It just might be more difficult to interpret. If you can basically ask it a yes/no question. Is this a good idea? Is usually the way to use this spell, but you could also ask it something that you just get a yes or a no, like, is Briar alive? Go to the carpenter's place, somewhere with walls so it's private. Yeah, all of those have walls except the sculptor's place. there a private bathroom we can roll the dice in? Perception check on the area to see where the Dragonborn are, so we don't get caught. Yep. So as you're standing by the meditation hall, you have this episode brought to you by the number 3. 3. Should we jettle both of Apus's dice and start using Mel's dice? All right, Mel's dice for the rest of it. And work our way through Mel's dice too. So you look around with a 3. Your dark vision only extending 60 feet into the canopies of the trees around you. You can see that there aren't any attached to the one that you're on. So there's no Dragonborn on this one, the cleaner's place, or the main hub where the food hall is. And after that, you can't really see. You look down over the edge, can't see any Dragonborn down there. You could ask the dice about the portal. Yeah. You could ask the dice, is the dragon lying about Briar, or whatever. Ask the dice where to roll. Where is a good idea to roll the dice? All right, so we'll go to the carpenter's hut because it's relatively close by. We will step out from this one over to the sculptor's area, and we'll pass through the sculptor's area to the carpenter's hut. Cool. You make your way all the way over to Sharu's hut, and you get out the bone dice from your bag, and you pour the dice out into your hand. What are we going to ask them? You sit down on the floor of his hut. Nobody's in there. You're all alone with walls around you. Am I stronger than the dragon? You could ask that. Don't ask if he's lying. He never explicitly said she's dead. True. He talked about it in the past tense. Will the elves revolt with me? That could be a good question. Is Briar dead? Can we just lie down and sleep and roll quietly on the floor next to our head? Yeah, you could try that. And so you sort of lie down. You get your have you got a bedroll out? Yeah, you've got a bedroll. So you get your bedroll out, and you lie it down on Tisharu's floor, and you sort of roll, and you put your back to the door, and you can roll quietly in front of you on the ground. Should we vote? We should vote, but I can't put a poll together until I know what the options are, Chudriel. So I have to ask for ideas of what we might be asking. Did we just eat Briar? Is the portal safe tomorrow? Will the elves revolt with me? And is help coming? Get in and vote for what you think Apis wants to ask these dice tonight. The dice will give you a sense of weal, a sense of woe, or a sense of mixture of both, or if it's not applicable, a sense of neither. You can ask the dice the next question immediately afterwards, but every time that you ask the dice something in a day, there is a chance that they're just going to give you a random answer, and that chance increases. So you could ask the dice all 5 of these questions, but which one are we going to ask first? Can we ask the same question multiple times to fact check the dice? You can, but you don't know whether one of them is correct and then the next one was a lie, and then you get a random answer the next time. If you know that the first one is correct, and then you can ask it then you could ask it again to fact check it, but then you've already got the answer that you wanted. With 69 nice % of the vote, is Briar dead? So thinking about our friend Briar, as we lie down on our bedroll on the floor of Tisharu's carpentry hut, we think about Briar. We think about the horrific possibility that the dragon could be telling the truth as a supreme power trip over us. And then we think, is she dead? Is Briar dead? and you loose the dice onto the floor. And as they hit the floor of the wooden hut, each of them bounces multiple times. And on each bounce, you get a different sensation, a different sense. You get a putrid smell. You get a crying baby. You get a hot, unpleasant sensation. You get a vision of someone dropping a bowl and it shattering on the ground. And you are left with a sense of woe. As the dice come to a rest. And then you hear footsteps on wood outside. And you sort of quickly scoop the dice back up into your hand and look over your shoulder just as you see Zakar approaching with his spear out.
What are you doing in here?
Sleeping. Trying to sleep. I'm looking for a place to sleep.
You know there is a meditation room for that.
I was trying to find a quiet spot out of people's way. Just trying to rest. I don't meditate. I need to sleep properly. I'm not an elf. My bad. Sorry.
Move.
Yeah. And you stand up and you you put the dice back into the bedroll and roll it up, and put that back into your bag. I'm sorry. I feared people would be uneasy with me after I angered our Lord.
I imagine they will be, yes. Move.
You move out ahead of them and walk across, and he walks with you, frog matches you all the way back to the sleeping hut. You now see Cassandra's in there, and what was the name of the one that I was forgetting? Logan. Sorry, you didn't actually get his name yet, but the gnome, the new gnome that was brought in, is sort of sitting there wide-eyed as you enter, and he's still got his mask on. He looks over towards you, but you're not exactly sure that he can even see you based on his lack of depth perception when he put his mask on and had to take his glasses off for it. Charlie is there, yes. Charlie is sleeping with his... Well, he's lying down with his back to the door anyway. Investigation roll. Do the Dragonborn wear footwear? They do not. No investigation roll needed. You're being walked along in front of them. You've seen them climbing ladders and things. You definitely know that they do not wear footwear. You just heard his claws on the wood. You walk in and see people sort of looking up and then rolling eyes and looking back down again, going back into their trance state. Others don't look up at all. They seem to be deep within the trance. You sort of turn for confirmation from Sakar, and he points his sort of nods his head towards the centre of the room. So you walk out and you unroll your bedroll and lie down. Just as he's turning his back, a voice, clear as day, as if they're speaking to you from right next to you, appears in your mind and says, Apis, Vala, Mel arrived, said you're captured. We can track your dice, keep them close. Be patient, stay alive, it will take time to organise. and you can feel it's almost like a window opened in your mind and allowed this voice through. And you can feel that window closing again. You know that you can respond, but it requires you to speak. Zakar is turning his back and starting to leave. What do? You can respond. You have a matter of seconds to respond. You can respond with up to 25 words as the window is closing, but it requires you to audibly speak. Zakar is possibly out of audible range if you whisper quietly enough, but there's also a chance that he could hear you. Reply Kobold in City Well in Sylvan. Ooh, that could be a good one. Sorry for not wanting to eat my friend by an angering Lucy, everyone. Can disguise as a prayer before we sleep. Could whisper Kobolds in the well. Or the forest always listens. This is some good ones. Some good ones coming. We're going to have to put a poll here. Firstly, I'll split this into 2 polls. I'll say, are we going to make a noise? We should say something. We should do just a non-verbal acknowledgement of it, like a or we should just stay silent to be safe. And then if we choose yes, we're going to say something, then I'll put another poll out to say, like, what are we going to whisper? A prayer to Altamez, an apology to the people in the room with us, something couched as an apology, something couched as a good night. Important question, is the Sylvan word for kobold recognisable as the word kobold to those that don't speak Sylvan? No, I'm going to say no. And with 66% of the vote, yes, we are going to say something. So a new poll, what are we going to say? Alright, so the 5 options I'm going to put in the poll are whisper a warning of the kobolds, whisper a prayer, whisper apologies to the room, or say apologies to the room, make a single acknowledgement, or whisper speak at sunrise. With 58% of the vote, we're going to say speak at sunrise. So in the moment, you've never been the recipient of a sending spell before. You hear this message from Vala as if she's standing next to you, and you give like a little jolt of surprise, and then you hear the message fading, the window closing, and you quickly say, speak at sunrise. I'm going to make a charisma based stealth check. Your ability to manipulate your own voice to a whisper that's inaudible, plus your stealth modifier. That's kind of fucked, but it would have been a 15 if it didn't knock itself. So 16. Oh, plus stealth, that's good. So a 19. Speak at sunrise. You whisper speak at sunrise to yourself, and then you sort of glance over your shoulder to see that the Dragonborn Zakar has left and walked away, or continues to leave and walk away. Doesn't seem like he heard you. So you look around as you finish putting your bedroll out as well, and either nobody else in the room heard you, or they are sleeping, or they're just at least pretending that they didn't hear you. And so you sit down and you try to sleep, and there's a lot going on for you. It's a very uncomfortable mask while you're sleeping. You kind of look around and see that the elves mostly just sleep in sort of a meditative stance, like sitting cross-legged. Some of them have leant back and put their heads against the walls behind them, and so they can wear their masks without it sort of bothering them. But putting your head on a pillow, like this bone, this sawn off front of a skull of a beast, digging into your sides, your face when you're sitting. The only way it doesn't dig into you is if you're on your back. So it's not the most pleasant experience. So I'm just going to roll a wisdom check to see if you can sort of calm your mind enough to go to sleep. 9 plus 2. No, it's not enough. You're like tossing and turning, trying to sleep for a bit. Do you take the mask off? It will make it easier to sleep. You take the mask off. You turn around and see, and you can see that Cassandra is lying on her back. The gnome is kind of just like sitting in the corner, rocking with his mask on. And Charlie's got his back to you, so you're not exactly sure what's happening with him. So do you take the mask off, or do you just try and eventually fall asleep? make it look like the mask fell off while we slept, like keep it near us with the leather still partially around our head. That could also work, yeah, just like slip it off of your face and just put it there and then go to sleep, and then if it falls off in the night, it's fallen off. Give me a yes in the chat if you want to take the mask off and try and like make it look like it's fallen off in the night. Put a no in the chat if you don't want to take the mask off. Interesting. That was a roll to see if you can go to sleep, so you can use your inspiration to re-roll it if you want as well. Nose, nose, nose. The nose seemed to have it, but it's kind of down the middle. It's close enough that it requires a requires a poll, I think. Just a 1 minute poll. Do we want to use their inspiration to re-roll that sleep attempt to see if we can calm our mind enough to go to sleep anyway, even with this mask on? The elves who are meditating are still wearing their masks. Yes, they are. Because they're not lying down for the most part. What did we roll for the sleep? We got a 9 plus 2. We got an 11 wisdom check. 56% of the vote saying no, we're not going to use the inspiration because we never know when we're going to need it. So in that case, new poll. Yes or no, 1 minute, take the mask off. You can't get to sleep. You're tossing and turning for like half an hour to an hour of just having this mask on and it being really uncomfortable. You sit up and you look around. The people who are sleeping or meditating have got their masks on because they're sitting up to meditate, so they don't really need this to lie down anyway. Even the elves who are sort of semi-lying down are more in like a sitting up slouching position with their heads against the walls. And then you can see Cassandra, who's lying next to you, sort of lying near you, sort of tossing and turning as well. She can't sleep because she's got this damn mask on. There's the new guy, the gnome, who's sitting in the corner, sitting in against one of the walls, sort of rocking, and his mask is still on. And then Charlie has his back to you, and you don't see whether he's got his mask on or not. 55% of people saying no. So 55% of Apus's brain says, no, we're not going to take the mask off. We've been told to keep it on. We're going to obey them. So we keep the mask on and we just toss and turn, trying to get to sleep. So I'm going to need a Constitution saving throw for you for the night. You're going to have a long rest, but there's a chance you gain a point of exhaustion because of how restless you're going to be throughout the night. Not 20. You see that? That little hexagon sort of shape there, that's the bee. I got bee honeycomb, and on this Mel B dice, that means a nat 20. So even though you are restless, tossing and turning, you are exhausted enough that you manage to get enough of a rest to not gain a point of exhaustion overnight. So you have a long rest. Overnight, your dreams are probably plagued with large predators chasing through the forest, and the chance of Briar being eaten horrifically by a large hungry predator, and fire enters your mind. You've got visions of shadows coming off of the wall to strike out at people. Just all of the nasty shit that you've had to deal with. There's at one point you see a dream of Briar turning into a pig, and then a manticore grabbing it and just devouring this pig whole. There's just lots of nasty dreams for the night, but ultimately you still get a long rest. So you get back your spell slots. Bing, you can see your spell berries all coming back there. And you get back a lucky horseshoe for use for one reroll. In the morning, you are woken early by the sound of somebody next to you speaking very clearly and loudly, as though through an open window in your mind. And the voice says, Apus, Vala, Briar arrived. We haven't located you yet. King has sent a force. Hold on a few more days. Stay strong. Help us fight. What do you respond? Send the numbers of enemies and captives, also the danger in the well. Test Briar. Birds are spies. So let's go poll. Let's go, how do we respond? Clear and concise, or with hidden information? So I would say you can look around to see if anybody's around you, but the longer you take to do that, like if you take the time to look around you, you're going to have fewer words that you can respond with. Pretend it's sleepy dream talk. That's a good idea. Mumble something in our sleep. Alright, 73% of people of Apis' mind decides in the moment. Clear, concise information. So now we have to decide, what are we going to say? We've got, if we respond immediately, we've got 25 words that we can say. Danger in well, vegetation dome, 20 elves captive, 6 dragonborn. Might not be Briar, birds are spies, Cassandra here. We'll wait for help, and then I'm okay. So this is what you say then. You hear this noise and you go, oh fuck, and not knowing who's in the room with you, you just kind of toss yourself over onto your front and stick your face into your pillow a bit, and then say, danger in well, vegetation dome, 20 elves captive, 6 dragonborn. Might not be Briar, birds are spies, Cassandra here. We'll wait for help. I'm okay. And you're not sure exactly whether or not you got the I'm okay, and as you hear the you feel the window close in your mind. Okay. All right, and then you continue to mutter to yourself. Oh no! Wait! Come on! Get away from him, Brian! No! Brian! No! And with your performance check, your deception performance check, deception or performance, 13. 13 plus your charisma of 1 is 14. You are not proficient in deception or performance, so it's just a straight 14. Then you, Brian, no, you sit up and you look around and you see that there's not as many people in the room as there were the night before. You see that your startled noise seems to wake up Cassandra and the new gnome who's sitting nearby. Charlie is not in the room with you. Leandra and Alethi from the sorting hut are no longer in the room with you. Thanalai, the oil creator, is not in the room with you. Who else was in here? Alana was not in the room, and Tisharu is not either. However, you can see that there are 2 other elves that you recognize as the cooks. Beladel and Olathea are nearby, and the alchemists Capona and Clarenton are also in the room with you. Beladel, one of the cooks, the one that was a little racist towards you yesterday, he seems to be staring at you as you sort of sit up. He seems to have been meditating, and then your noise woke him, and he's looking at you. Bad dream, is it? Yeah. Bad dream. And as he stares you down, we will end the session there, and I'll pick up here next week. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye. Oh, hey, look at that. It's the end of the video. Don't forget to hit subscribe. See if you can get me to that next arbitrary milestone of 10,000 subscribers. That'd be pretty cool. Thank you.